Hi everyone and welcome to our webinar today, our T-Level Provider Welcome webinar for the engineering manufacturing sector. My name is Simon York and I am a lead technical advisor at City and Guilds, predominantly working in the engineering and manufacturing sector. We're just going to give people a couple of minutes to join, so we'll probably start the webinar in around 1 to 2 minutes. So just hold tight and we'll start in 2 minutes. Okay, so that's a sufficient grace period to make sure that everybody's got the cups of tea or coffee and settled down. So let's make a start. So as I said, my name's Simon and I'm joined by colleagues from both City and Guilds and EAL today, and we're going to provide an overview of the engineering and manufacturing T-level. So I'm now going to hand over to Anita Crossland, who will introduce herself. So can we move on to the next slide? Anita, over to you.
Thank you, Simon. Hello, everybody. My name's Anita Crossland and I am the Post-16 Senior Manager at City and Guilds, overseeing T-levels. I'd like to run through the agenda first and what we've got planned for the next hour. Obviously, to welcome you all to this webinar, and hopefully we will be able to answer your questions. We are going to sort of cover our partnership with our colleagues EAL and why that's so important to the development of this T-level. The T-level technical qualification update, our colleagues from our development team are going to talk you through how we are approaching the development process of the TQ in the engineering and manufacturing pathways, our approach to design and development and how you can get involved and how you are critical to the development of these T-levels. And obviously we will allow time for question and answers at the end. Hopefully you are familiar with a webinar, and if you have got any questions, please post those. So without further ado, we would first like to say how delighted we are that we have won all 3 engineering and manufacturing contracts for the 3 pathways. I think, you know, for us, we are extremely excited, and alongside our partners EAL, we believe that we can support the industry going forward with the right qualifications to allow our learners to progress into what we believe is a fantastic industry. So again, just delighted that we are able to be on this journey with you and ensuring that the T-levels will be a program of choice for learners. So we're going to start with really why our partnership has emerged. We believe that working in collaboration with EAL was the right decision right from the word go. We absolutely fit together well. We have the same ideas and ethos across our businesses, and we have spent a lot of time together working and planning through not only the bid phase for the contracts, but also understanding how we fit so well together. We believe that EAL's technical expertise across key employer groups alongside that wider customer journey will really help build something for the future. As I said, we want to continue to drive up standards, ensuring that we meet those learners and employers' needs and meet the policy vision of T-levels that we jointly absolutely wholeheartedly agree on. Next slide, Simon. Sorry, Scott. Okay, so we're going to start with what are T-levels, and for most of you, I'm sure that you're already sort of familiar, but we thought it was important just to sort of turn back the clock a little bit and really sort of understand why we're here. Obviously, the government vision is that for level 3 learners at post 16, there will be 3 key choices for them, either to continue studying an academic route into A-levels, or an apprenticeship route, or to undertake one of these new T-levels. It's really important to emphasize here that T-levels allow that young person to make some informed decisions about their future and where they progress on to. What's really important, that these qualifications are co-created by employers from the industry, but also by providers, to ensure that we've got the right skills, knowledge and behaviours to shape those qualifications for the future. Next slide, Scott, please. Just takes a few minutes to move on. Okay, so a reminder of what a T-level, oh, sorry, I've gone back. I'll just wait for the next slide to come up. Hopefully you're sitting comfortably. And as Simon said, you've got your cup of tea. Are we having, oh no, here we go. Right, so just a reminder of the T-level programme itself. So as a reminder, this is a 2-year programme. So on achieving a T-level, a learner must complete all of the components. Also important to note that these T-level programmes will have UCAS points attached, so we are expecting there to be an equivalence to around 3 A-levels, which obviously allows a young person to progress, if they so wish, into university and higher education. The T-level itself is a programme not just of a qualification, but also importantly that work placement or industry placement hours. A young person is expected to complete a minimum of 45 to 60 days within that industry placement, where they get valuable insights to what the industry, working in the industry, is all about. A learner who hasn't achieved a GCSE grade 4 or below will need to complete a GCSE or functional skills at level 2. If there are any other license to practice that has been set by the T-level panel, which in the case of engineering there isn't a license to practice, and also a learner will need to complete some form of tutorial or enrichment activities. As part of the T-level programme, City and Guilds and EAL will be developing what we call the TQ, or the technical qualification, which the image on the screen surrounded by the black line really sort of focuses on the TQ itself. So the TQ is made up of 2 component parts: a core, which covers the knowledge, behaviours of the engineering and manufacturing T-level itself, and then the occupational specialisms, which are broken down and linked very much to the occupational maps and standards that have been developed. The core and the occupational specialisms we are expecting once the qualification starts to be developed is around 50% of the total qualification time. Obviously that will alter once the qualification is in development, but we will look at those sort of sections. The core will be graded A* to E, and it will cover the concepts, theories and transferable skills and knowledge. The assessment of the core is through an externally set exam, and a substantial employer set project. So again, ensuring that the young person is assessed within a real life example or project that they will be able to get their teeth into. The occupational specialisms part, again, as I said, will be based on these occupational maps and will start to pull out the skills, knowledge and behaviours again that young person needs to work within engineering or manufacturing. And the assessment of those occupational specialisms will be very much around the practical, synoptic, holistic assessment to ensure that that young person has those sort of skills to move on to their next sort of level of progression. Okay, next. Perfect. So where will the TQ or the technical qualification come from? So it's important to show the sort of the relationship with the outline content that has been developed by a core T-level panels that the Institute had commissioned and have been working on the outline content for the last 18 months, 2 years. This panel of experts have used the standards that have been used in apprenticeships and these occupational maps to ensure that the T-level content actually is relevant, is fit for purpose, and is actually based on what employers need for young people coming into the industry. The occupational specialisms are also drawn out in the outline content. So the T-level panels are really close to the outline content. Through the award of the contract, what City and Guilds and EAL then do is take this outline content and amplify it with our experts, with our consultants, with our providers and our employer groups to ensure that we remain true to the outline content and the intent of the T-level panel, and we are developing a product that is fit for purpose and actually allows progression for that young person. So this slide really demonstrates how a T-level and an occupational map and the standards are very closely linked, and again through all that employers and providers are key to ensuring that we have the right products when we launch these and for first teaching from September 2022. Okay, next slide, Scott. So just some key facts that you may not know about regarding T-levels. So as we've said sort of earlier, City and Guilds and EAL partnership will deliver all 3 pathways within engineering and manufacturing. So for the next 12 months, we will be busy building and developing those qualifications and sample assessment materials to ensure that you have sight of those through your planning stages and recruitment stages. The contract is for 5 years, and through that contract we will be delivering live assessments year on year to ensure that they are again fit for purpose, but also have been validated and reviewed and been developed in conjunction with the employers. Eligible providers must be approved by the Department for Education in the first instance. There is windows of opportunities and expressions of interest for providers that want to be able to deliver T-levels beyond 2022. As we know, we have got a list of providers that have been approved to deliver engineering in the first cohorts, and obviously those many of you are online, and we will be working with you closely to ensure that you have everything you need in your preparation and planning for first delivery. You will still need to go through an approval process with us, but again, we will ensure that you are fully supported through that approval process. And in webinars that we'll be rolling out over the next 12 months, we will be giving you more information on that. As we've said before, each TQ will be based on the content that is developed by the employer panel, by the Institute's employer panel, and we will ensure that we stay true to that outline content and ensure that it is amplified in a way that not only the employer panel that developed the TQ content, but the root panel that works with the Institute, not only to oversee the apprenticeships, but also to ensure that the TQ and the T levels are successful. It's important to note that the Institute are the certificating authority and own the IP. It's not City and Guilds or EAL. And also that the winning AO or AOs in our case will be the development and assessment partners. And we do not produce a certificate for the learners. And I think, as you saw from previous slides, it's important to note that the T levels are not just a qualification, that obviously with the industry placement, with maths and English, with that enrichment and tutorial, it's important to understand that the T levels are a 2-year programme and go beyond just the qualification. Okay, that's my slides. Scott, if you want to move on, and Simon is going to go into a little bit more detail for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. So as Anita's already described, the technical qualification for engineering and manufacturing is built in a certain way, and you can see there on the right-hand side that learners must complete the engineering core, a pathway core, and an occupational specialism within a pathway. So starting with the engineering core component. So what is a core? What is transferable between different occupational specialisms within engineering and manufacturing? Well, there's quite a lot actually. The core contains content related to how we work in the industry and across the sectors, things like the maths and science we need to be able to solve different problems, and an overview of the different subjects related to the sectors, such as materials and material properties. It looks at mechanical principles, electrical, electronic principles, and mechatronics. It also covers the things that wrap around engineering, things like health and safety, business awareness, quality assurance, and improvements, those things that allow us to do our jobs effectively. It looks at things like project management. And that's just a brief overview of the breadth of the core. You can also see the 3 pathways there: maintenance, installation and repair, manufacturing, processing and control, and design and development. And dealing with each of these in turn, we look at the pathway core for maintenance, installation and repair. And this looks at how engineering products are configured and modified. It looks at the principles, practices and techniques for maintenance. Sorry, can we just, it's okay, we can stay on this one actually, yeah, it's fine. It looks at the practices and techniques for maintenance and repair. And finally, it looks at how engineered systems are decommissioned. For the manufacturing, processing and control pathway, the core looks at how mechanical and electrical principles are applied across different contexts and in different systems. It also looks at how manufacturing and processing works in practice, including the tools, techniques, and the complex systems used to carry this out. And finally, this pathway core looks at quality in engineering and manufacturing, both from an assurance and a quality improvement perspective. And the final pathway we have there is the design and development. This pathway takes a look at how customer and client requirements are interpreted. It looks at how we can use the principles and processes of design to be able to satisfy a need, and it looks at how ideas can be applied and communicated. So let's move on to the next slide and have a look at the occupational specialisms that sit underneath each pathway. So as you can see, for we have 6 occupational specialisms for maintenance, installation, repair. The first, mechanical, really looks at how materials, machinery, mechanics and dynamics work. And as we mentioned earlier, there is, I suppose, an alignment or certainly a line of sight into apprenticeship standards. Not that we're necessarily implying that that's the only progression route, but I suppose if you want to put the specialisms in context, you could think of the mechanical as related to the maintenance and operations engineering technician standard, which has obviously a mechanical pathway. For the mechatronics specialism, it focuses on the interplay between electrical, mechanical and computer-based systems. Once again, it could align with the Maintenance and Operations Engineering Technician standard, which has an electromechanical pathway, or we could have a line of sight into the Engineering Technician standard, which has a mechatronics maintenance pathway. The electrical electronics specialism relates to topics such as power generation, telecommunications, and electronic technology, and once again aligns very well with the Maintenance and Operations Engineering Technician standard, as does the Control and Instrumentation specialism that investigates how we work with systems that measure, monitor, and control variables. The fifth occupational specialism looks at vehicles and how we maintain and repair systems present within vehicles, systems such as braking systems or engines or transmission systems. And really to think about alignment with an apprenticeship standard, you could consider something like the light vehicle maintenance technician standard. And the final specialism within this pathway is the energy and utilities specialism, which looks at things like power, gas, water and waste management sectors. And once again, if you wanted to consider this in relation to an apprenticeship, you could maybe look at something like the utilities engineering technician standard. So let's move on to the next one, which is the design and development pathway. So in this one, there are 4 occupational specialisms, and all these specialisms sort of work in a similar way with respect to what they try and do, but it's the application of the different disciplines. And they focus on how the specialism is used to analyse and interpret information. It's used to evaluate designs and make improvements, how to actually propose design solutions, how to collaborate, how to manage processes, and how you can communicate the information effectively. And it has a certain alignment, I suppose, with the engineering and design draftsperson apprenticeship standard, which has similar pathways built within it. Can we just move on to the final one, please? And then for the manufacturing processing and control pathway, once again, it's 4 occupational specialisms within this one. So production technologies looks at how items, products are produced on an industrial scale. So certainly a consideration from an apprenticeship perspective. The machinist pathway of the engineering technician standard would be a good alignment, mainly focused around advanced manufacturing techniques. The manufacturing technologies one looks at the manufacturing industry and how a range of technique can be used to create a finished project. So there's alignment with standards such as advanced furniture CNC technician, for instance. The processing technologies occupational specialism looks at the underpinning chemical, physical or biological processes, and a natural alignment from an apprenticeship perspective could be food and drink advanced process operator. And then the final occupational specialism is materials technologies, and that occupational specialism looks at how materials are produced and processed to make products, and it has a natural alignment with standards such as metal, casting or paper maker. As mentioned before, for the core, it's assessed through our exam approach with employer set project, and the occupational specialism is assessed through an holistic or synoptic project. So I'm now going to hand over to Carla, who will provide an overview of our design and development process.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Carly Flood. I'm a lead development manager here at City and Guilds, and I'll be looking after the development of the engineering T-level. Basically, my slides are going to be a bit of a call to arms to you all. So what I want to do is give you an overview of how we're designing and developing the T-level, and also give you some opportunities to be involved. So the first slide that you can see here very much gives you an overview of our development process. So we're going to be taking into account the following. We need to ensure that it's incredibly employer focused. This is what really sets the T-level apart from other qualifications, and they really are the key to ensuring that we meet this term that you'll get used to hearing about threshold competence. And we will be planning a range of validation events with employers to gather their views throughout. We also really want to think about the learner in this, because we need to understand what's feasible and manageable for the age group, whilst also providing challenge so that we are providing the right kind of learners for the engineering sector. And another thing that we really want to think about is about a range of learners who may not have had the opportunity to study engineering subjects at Key Stage 4, and ensure that the qualification remains accessible. And really what we need are the views of providers like yourselves to give us that understanding. Alongside all the validation with employers, we also need to be constantly referring back to the vision that the employers had when drafting these occupational standards, along with the visions that we have whilst drafting the outline content, which I'm sure Simon just mentioned before. And really, we want to give you the opportunity to have some thoughts and conversations around authoring this content. Can I have the next slide, please? I do sort of love saying that, by the way. So this is kind of a nice understanding of how our process is going at the moment. Our first milestone is in February. So my colleagues and I are currently working through the initial stages to take that outline content, which if you haven't seen as providers is available on the Institute's website. And then we're going to amplify it and turn it into something that looks like a qualification that you'll be familiar with. So we'll have a full qualification handbook that you guys will be able to pull apart. My colleagues right now are taking each line of this content and working out what are the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria, what scope we need to include on the skills, the tools, the processes, the formulas that all have to be involved. And we do this with a range of SMEs from the range of engineering areas across all three pathways. Part of this is working out the GLH to make sure that you can deliver it in the time that we have. And part of it is working out if there's anything that we want to query with the T-level panel. If there's anything that looks a little bit interesting or that we want to make sure we've understood the intentions when that panel put it together. You can see that we're working those three phases over this milestone, but after Christmas, we'll be presenting the first version of our draft content with employers and providers to help validate our approach. Can I have the next slide, please? So I guess the first question you're asking is, what does validation sort of mean? And it's really these four areas. It's about our approach to assessment, the way that we've defined the specification, how much coverage we've put together, how long we think those assessments, the sequence of assessments that we are designing and putting forth to you guys. Some of it is also around delivery guidance, which, as it says on the slide there, the conditions of assessment, but also to ensure that everything that we've written can be interpreted unambiguously for centres across the whole nation. We will be creating indicative assessment materials to give you an idea of what those assessment components will look like, especially for those who might not be familiar with the T-levels. So we know there'll be core exams, employer set project, which is also a bit of a misnomer for some because they think it's something that will happen on the work placement. But if you think of that as more a core skills project, which we can talk about, and also just to give you a really broad overview of our overarching strategy, you will notice that part of assessment design is really about how things are managed by the curriculum as well. Which leads me kind of to my question. Can I have the next slide, please? In order to do this correctly and make sure that we get the views of everybody who is relevant, a stakeholder involved in this, we really have to subject matter experts. And by that, we do just mean people who have an understanding and a care about how this qualification will work. So we have key milestones that we have to work to as well. But what we are hoping for is that you will be the key to shaping our programme so that we ensure everything is covered. So when do we need you? Can I have the next slide? So we have this nice diagram here which gives you the key milestones that we're working to at the moment. You can see the ones that are specifically coloured in yellow will be when we'll be sharing materials that you can see more publicly. But we're working with these timescales in mind. We are contractually obliged to assure that the Institute has all this information at this point as well. So I'm hoping that some people are sitting there now thinking, I would like to be involved. Maybe just make a little note of some of those ideas. You can see they kind of line a little bit up with half terms as well. So potentially if there's any opportunity to be involved, those will be kind of our key times. So what do you need to do if you're sitting there thinking, please, Carly, let me be involved in your development? The next slide, please. Ultimately, what I need are subject matter experts who can write content that includes the specification delivery guidance, anything specific to engineering and how it should be interpreted. Developing assessment materials, so that can be assessment writers, assessment reviewers, scrutineers, anyone who has any skills. Some of you may be examiners as well. Reviewing generally for any part of the qualification or associated materials. Those fresh pair of eyes from a different perspective are crucial to ensure that the vision is correct. And the big thing that we need is validation, which is just providing written validation of the materials to agree our findings. There'll be slightly more formal milestones in which we can do that, but to ensure everything, it will definitely be virtual as well. Nobody will have to be getting a train to London anytime soon. Can I have the next slide, please? So hopefully some of those things have sparked some interest, but how do you get involved? So under the current circumstances, as it says, everything will be done in some sort of virtual environment, so there's nothing for you to worry about in that sense, and we'll provide the information to you. But if you want to get involved with any aspect of our design and development, you can see there are 2 email addresses there. So one is for my department and the other is for our partners, EAL. I would love to work with you in any capacity that you have available, because we think you guys are the key to making sure that our development is put in place. And that's pretty much my begging done. Hopefully I've given you a decent overview, and I'll pass you over to my colleague who'll be able to discuss the support for providers that we're putting in place and how to keep in touch.
Thank you, Carly. So I'm Scott Wilkins, and I'm the Industry Manager for Engineering and Manufacturing here at City and Guilds. So in terms of our support and guidance, we'll be supporting you through every step of the way through to the first teaching in September 2022. So what you'll note through visiting our website is we've got dedicated pages for the T-levels on both our website and also on EAL's website. That will also show a timeline between now and through to first delivery, and some of the key milestones that we are working towards as well. Now, clearly this is our first webinar for eligible providers, and we'll be hosting a range of webinars as we go through to first delivery. So do look out for those, and I'd urge you to sign up for those. Additionally, we will have a range of provider focus groups at set points through the development, where we will be focusing on particular parts of the development depending on where we are at that moment in time. Additionally, we will also be setting up industry boards focused on T-levels, and I'm sure that many of you will have your employer networks, and I'd urge you to point them in the direction of the website as well, and again to sign up to support us with the development. As has already been highlighted, it's not just providers we need to work with, but it's also your employers, large and small, that represent the breadth of the sector that we need to work in as well. So there'll be a range of e-bulletins coming out as well, and as Carly mentioned, there'll be a draft specification that we will be sharing as we go through the development cycle as well. And we have, through Simon, a dedicated technical advisor team who will be able to support you as we go through to first teaching. Now, there's you can see 2 links there to our dedicated T-level page that we have on the City and Guild site, and also our colleagues at EAL have on their website as well. And I would urge you, and again, to point your employers to that site where you can sign up to receive updates and get the invites to the webinars. So I would urge you to go onto there and sign up and to keep up to date on the T-levels development. Now, of course, it is important we hold the right details for everyone involved in T-levels. So we'd ask you to register, sign up, and check and change where necessary your email preferences on the links that you can see on the slide there. Okay, So once again, I just iterate that the slide will come out to you as a recording after this presentation. What we'd like to do now is to pause for a couple of minutes and see whether there are any questions that you have for us. Please feel free to enter. Please feel free to enter some questions into the chat, and we will do our best to answer them. Alternatively, we have had a range of questions that have come through prior to the event, and of course with the recording, we will also share the FAQs with you after the recording. But if you do have any individual questions now, do feel free to post those, and we will be, as I say, we will share those afterwards as well. There's one question that's come in around the impact of COVID and industry placement. Is the program, if the program isn't completed, if the hours can't be completed? So of course there is a requirement the hours will need to be covered. Regarding COVID or any impact of COVID, I mean, first thing to say is that by 2022 we would hope that we've moved on from these days of COVID. But if there is an impact, well then it would be subject to our mitigations and adaptations guidance that we prepare for all of our qualifications. So it would come within that range and would be dealt with under that guidance document as well.
So, Scott, can I just come in there as well, just to say that it is important to note that under the industry placement of the T-level, actually the department monitor that as part of the wider T-level programme. So currently for the 2020 providers, there are discussions happening at the moment for those that are actually delivering the first T-levels this year. So obviously we will monitor and watch that, obviously quite eagerly. And as you said, by 2022, let's hope we are in a better place. But obviously, you know, this year we will learn so much from something like a pandemic and how that impacts us and other organisations who are delivering contracts and T-levels.
Thank you, Anita. Okay. There appears to be any individual questions that have come in now. So, oh, this is one more that's come in. Okay, thank you. There's a comment there. Thank you for that. Okay. I think that's all the questions that are coming in for now. As I say, what we will do is we will share this recording with you along with FAQs, and they will come out over the next day or so. I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of us here at City and Guilds and our colleagues at EAL for attending this webinar today, and we look forward to working with you as we go through the development and into implementation. And once again, I'd urge you to go onto the website and sign up so that you are in receipt of the latest information and guidance as we send it out. So we'll end the webinar here today, and I thank you very much for your time. Thank you.